Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ted Stovin. I am one part of the Cowboy Sh podcast. My partner in crime, Wacey Anderson, has gone to a rodeo this weekend, so I've got my good friend, and she runs everything cowboy for us. She's Miss Darby Crouch. Darby, welcome to Red Deer and the Horse Expo.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited to be here for first time with you.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun day here. The weekend just getting started. Dustin Sapola has already made his first session with his colt over in the Cowboy Shit arena over there. So we got a live show coming up here though with you, and I guess we'll get right to introducing our guests for this morning. We're gonna get to meet a few of two of the three trainers and another clinician as well. So we'll get right to it. So growing up on the back of a horse, she taught inside the classroom for 5 years. After her education career, she moved to professionally train horses all across the world, from Italy to France, Australia, and she spent all this last winter in the U.S. After owning and operating her own arena for several years, she shifted her sights to coaching and the focus on equitation. So, from east of Calgary, close by Pollockville, please welcome Jill Barron. Thanks for joining us, Jill. We'll get it to so Jill's got 3 different clinics this weekend, and the first one's going to be this afternoon, isn't it, Jill?
Is this on? Yes, yeah. It is this afternoon.
Awesome.
I'm actually not sure what time.
It's in our program.
For something.
Yeah, I'll have to look in the program. We'll get to that here later on. But I want to bring up our next guest. Starting his first colt at 12 years old, he specializes in problem horses, finishing older horses, and competing in colt training competitions. A writer, he and his wife Bronwyn also host the Horse Trainers on the Cowboy Channel here in Canada. From Port Elgin, Ontario, please welcome Jason Irwin. I don't know if the guys can hear us backstage, but that was your cue, Jason. If you can, yeah, here he is. There we go. One more time, Jason Irwin. Woo! And our third guest, another of the trainers this weekend, a former CFR qualifier in the saddle bronc riding, also to the Montana Circuit Finals. He's worked on ranches from BC to Saskatchewan. He's a former colt starting competition champion. He's actually won 75% of the events he's competed in. From just outside Cardston, Alberta, though, please welcome Dustin Sapola. All right, looks like Dustin gets the dreaded middle seat. Sorry about that. I guess that's what you get for being third out. Okay, so let's start with Dustin, though. You had your first session with your horse already. You picked one of the Blue Roans over there. Just talk about that horse. Some fun names on him today too, but just talk about how the first session went for you.
Well, I think it went not too bad. He pretty easy to work with, pretty willing-minded. You know, he didn't do anything I didn't expect really. You know, he's first time getting saddled and being worked. There's going to be spots in there where they're unsure of things, and all you can do is adjust to the situation and do the best job you can, and try to keep their mind with you a little bit to the best of your ability, and that's about all you can do. And you get done what you get done that day, and we're in the first go, and hope ended well, and second round we'll see.
So you've got kind of a 45-minute session down so far, another one this afternoon, 2 tomorrow, and 1 or 2 Sunday. I forget what the run is.
I think 2 Sunday.
2 Sundays, so 6 total. 6 in 3 days. Is that right, Jason?
If I'm not mistaken, I think we have 1 training session on the Sunday and then the finale on the Sunday evening.
Okay, gotcha.
But don't quote me on that.
Okay. So how did it go for the first one, Dustin? What are you thinking? Like, did you accomplish what you set out to? It's not all about what you want to do. You have to focus on what, the feedback you get and how it goes. What are you thinking so far, though?
Well, I was pretty happy. I got a saddle, and he got worked through that, and he was getting more comfortable with it, and I was getting him follow my feel and coming around and kicking his hip out. I mean, I would have got on him if he was ready to get on, but he wasn't. So I mean, it doesn't matter. If it would have took me, if I didn't get him saddled the first go, it wouldn't really matter. I mean, if he was that tough, it took me long enough for all 45 minutes where I could touch him and rub him all over. I mean, that's what it took. So all you can do is do what you can with the time you got, and try to make the best out of the horse you have, work with, and then just let it all roll out, because it's not about how much you get done every round. You know, it's kind of about where you leave them and their mindset. And if you can do that, and they come back the next time, they can be 10 times the horse that they were before, or they can go the other way and be a little snaky, you know. So it just kind of, the horse will tell you kind of where he's at in that moment, and all you can do is work with what you got and what you created in a way, you know. And that's, yeah, I don't know what else to say.
That's a lot. Good job.
Jason, I want to ask you. You got third pick as far as the horses go, but you guys don't know much about these colts. They're only 3 years old. They've been they know how to get on the trailer, and they've kind of had a little bit of work, but like they're pretty fresh. Like there's not much to go on, is there?
No, and actually, I only saw the colts for the first time when they walked in the pen, so we had like 1 to 2 minutes to look through them. So there's really not a whole lot to go on. I think it's a little bit tricky sometimes if you pick one that looks like it's gentle and easy. The first part will be easy, but maybe doesn't last as well through the competition. On the flip side, if you get a tough one, obviously that's tough, but then sometimes they last a little better. So there's always that balance point. You don't know which one really is kind of the one until you kind of get rolling with them. But yeah, I got third choice. I'm always a little bit prejudiced to blue roans just because we own 40 or 50 of them. So I was probably going to pick, just because I didn't know I was going to pick a big blue, but I got third. But honestly, I was very happy with my horse too. So I'm definitely not complaining in any way, shape, or form.
Do you guys only get to see and be around these horses in the arena for those 45-minute sessions? Is that what it is?
I'm not really sure as far as seeing them, like we saw them again, just like for those 1 or 2 minutes. But we're definitely not allowed to work with them at any other point and stuff like that. And just for the interest of maybe looking sportsmanlike, I kind of stay away from them just so that you can't give that impression. But no, we don't work with them besides the time that you guys see us.
So Jill, is this a bit lower stress for you this weekend, not being in the Trainers Challenge? Is it a little bit kind of nicer to not have that part, or what are your thoughts on that this weekend?
For sure. I just, the teaching aspect I get to do is fun for me. It's not stressful at all. But 2021, we did Heart of the Horse. I started a colt with Dustin, and it adds a real element to your weekend for sure. But it's such a weird deal because you can't really plan. You really, like Dustin was talking about, you have to just be with that colt and be in the moment. And so stressing over it really, it doesn't do any good, but you just got to roll with what you've got and what's in front of you and just keep that horse's best interest in the forefront. So it's all kit and caboodle to just being around and working with horses. So I try to not let stress even enter my mind.
Because if you're stressed, the horse is going to be stressed too.
For sure, yeah.
Go ahead, Darby.
I was going to ask, Jill can answer this question too, but for the both of you going into this, I believe you know the bloodlines on these horses beforehand you go in the arena. I know some people in the industry are so strict on bloodlines and they'll buy a colt based off of the bloodlines. Does that matter to you guys at all when you go into this?
Not to me. I start so many and such a wide variety of horses. Lots of times I'll just go off my gut or what I read by watching the horse, more so than the papers. But the papers do have, if you do pay attention, I mean, there will be patterns, for sure. And so that it's good to know a little bit of both. It's good to be able to read them, and it's good to know your bloodlines a little bit. But you can take that too far too. I mean, I've rode a lot of great horses that right up there with a lot of $100,000 horses, just as good. So I wouldn't, papers are important to sell, but when it comes down to riding, not so much, but you can weed out and try to pick the horse that you really, that maybe you think you're fit or what you want in a horse for how sensitive they are and their capabilities and how they move. I mean, darn sure bloodlines are a good way to kind of sort through that. But I would say keep an open mind a little bit.
Jason?
I would say on that one, with the colts that are brought here, they are all from the same ranch. They are somewhat similar breeding, so it would be pretty hard, I think, to go through and say this one is very different than that one. They kind of have basically the same family tree to them. Now, having said that, if I was looking at a group of papers and every horse on the paper suggested that it was going to be a little bit a horse that didn't maybe suit this format, then yeah, I probably would maybe not pick that one. But having said that, it's kind of like what Dustin talked about. You can have one that on paper looks like it should be one thing and it's totally another in real life. So if I was looking at the horses, if two were identical and the papers suggested a difference, maybe that would influence me. On the other hand, though, if one looked better in the ring, I don't care what his papers would look like, I would pick the one that I thought was the nicer horse.
And how are you deciding that on a 2-minute, seeing this horse for 2 minutes? What are you looking for? What are you focusing on? I don't know how you guys can do that so quickly and know which one you might want or not want.
Well, I got third pick, so it didn't matter a heck of a lot.
You got one of two.
That's true. I think generally, just kind of like what I touched on earlier, I'd like something with a little bit of substance that I feel like it could last through the competition. Because we do have to play to the horse's strengths. If you have one that's going to maybe wear out a little bit quick, we do have to tone it down so that we do not overwhelm that horse. So personally, I like something that looks like it's sort of strong and can get all the way there. We obviously cannot push too much, and that's the whole point of this, really. But I think we want to have it where we have one basically that'll last. And also, too, if one looks like it's just, there's certain horses, they're really, really good horses, but they take quite a while to get through to. And that in this format, that is tricky. It's not that it's impossible, but it is tricky. So I guess, again, we're probably going to, if something was climbing the walls, maybe we would stay away from that, just speaking for myself. But any decision could be the right decision. Any decision could be the wrong decision.
Go ahead,
So
Darby.
do you guys go into each session based off of what happened in the one before? Like, do you take that progress based on what you are feeling? Like, if they feel into the next session that you didn't get a whole lot of progress done that you wanted in the first one, do you kind of just take it step by step with them?
I would say on that one, I think you definitely do have to be always thinking about building off your last session, just because if you come in totally blank slate every single time, you're going to have to retrace so many steps that it might be kind of hard to get very far. Having said that, though, if you think where you left off is exactly where you're going to start up again, that could put you in trouble too, because they might have molded over, they might come out easier, they might come out a little bit harder, hopefully not too much, but it could go either direction. So I think every session, you do have to judge it based on where your horse comes out that day. But obviously, if you have no game plan, that's going to make life a little bit hard too.
Dustin?
Yeah, I agree in ways. I mean, I darn sure when I go in, I'll go in my second round. I mean, I'll got a picture in my mind how I want that horse to be. But then again, if for whatever reason he has to take 5 steps back, well, I'll just take 5 steps back with him. Can